Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry, Literature channel. Today we will listen to the work, The Lady in the Pink Silk Shirt, by author Thach Lam. Let's listen. Heap walked leisurely through the streets, hat tilted askew, cigarette in mouth. As he walked, he looked at the bustling crowd of people passing by under the warm sunshine of the autumn morning. Occasionally, Heap stopped in front of a jewelry store, happily admiring the soft felt hats, beautiful belts and brightly colored silk ties. Even though he didn't have the money to buy those things, just looking at them was enough for Heap to enjoy some of the pleasures of casual outings. Especially Heap's outings have another purpose. Every Sunday morning, he walks around, saying he's going out to have fun, but in reality he's just trying to see the girls in Hanoi. Experience had told him that Sunday was the time when there were the most ladies in town. Now the girls go shopping for clothes, makeup, and perfume, a job that Heap thinks is most suitable for a young woman's personality. Heap's main joy is to see a pretty young girl standing and choosing samples to make new shirts, or choosing powders and perfumes in beautiful boxes. Sometimes he stood silently for hours, or all morning in front of a silk shop, watching the young ladies buy goods. He looked at the jet black hair that covered her pink and pretty ears, the sideburns that hung carelessly on her pale cheeks, the soft bodies and the flowing colored dresses. If a beautiful girl comes out, Heap will follow immediately. Follow from a distance, but follow discreetly, without letting the girl know. Sometimes he just walked like that from one street to another, and then when the girl entered the house, Heap was still standing on the sidewalk in a daze. But then he also saw the tastelessness of standing like that without benefit. What? Because the girl didn't know where he was going, and even if she did know, she probably wouldn't have paid attention. Many times, following a pretty girl for a while was quite tiring. Heap just wanted to move forward to find a way to get to know or talk to the girl. But his timidity made Heap, when he was about to speak, feel awkward, realizing that what he was about to say had no meaning at all. Therefore, under the girl's surprised eyes, Heap felt awkward and then stepped back to maintain his previous position as a follower. Many times Heap was angry at himself for his timidity. He saw his friend spontaneously starting a conversation with a young girl he had never met on the street very easily. He muttered that he was a coward, and that he would definitely be more courageous and bold next time. Again. Thinking like that, Heap played the flute in the middle of the street to look like he was simple and didn't need anyone, which he saw his friends still had, then walked briskly towards the lake shore. Suddenly he stopped. A young girl turned her head down Hang Gai Street, and as soon as she saw Heap, she looked up. An electric current seemed to spread from head to toe. Heap could no longer see anything, only seeing the girl's dark eyes and the pink color of her shirt. Heap has never seen such a beautiful girl. He just stood there in a daze, forgetting the politeness to step aside to let the girl go. Only when the girl looked at him with surprised eyes again, smiled as if to mock him and then turned away, Heap regained his composure and followed behind the girl. The pink silk dress fluttered in the wind. The girl had a soft posture, making Heap happy that he had met a beauty. He was determined not to miss a good opportunity this time, as he followed and thought of a plan to get to know the girl. Perhaps the girl also knew that he was following, so from time to time she turned to look at Heap and smiled. Passing through Hang Gong Street, Duong Street, Dong Zon Market, the girl turned through Luoc Street, then stopped on the sidewalk, looking bewildered at the two street blocks like someone looking for a house number. Trying to gather all his courage, Heap walked towards the young girl. He took off his hat and said very politely, "Miss, ma'am." The young girl looked up at Heap, waiting quietly. "Miss, ma'am." Suddenly Heap's courage had gone somewhere. Heap felt confused, his face was hot, he forgot to say anything else. Seeing Heap's confused look, the young woman seemed to take pity on him. Suddenly she asked, "Is that Mr. Tan?" Heap stood stunned for a moment. But a thought flashed through Heap's mind, a way to escape the awkward moment. Heap immediately boldly replied, "Yes, I'm." The young girl suddenly seemed hurried and considerate, walked closer to Heap, and said, "Damn it. But I didn't realize it. He looks different now than before, much slimmer." Then she pursed her red lips. "And from then until now, how can you not remember, sir, are our two elders still healthy?" "In the end, he had to die." Heap hesitantly replied, "Yes, thank you, teacher, my mother is still normal." Heap was a bit worried, afraid that she would know it was a mistake, which would be embarrassing. But the young girl seemed not to notice Heap's awkward look and continued calmly. "Since you dropped out of school, my grandmother still remembers you, often talks about you and always wants you to come out and play. You must be very busy in the countryside, right?" This time Heap is no longer worried. He guessed that maybe a certain Tan had stayed at this girl's house to study, then returned to his hometown to rest, and had been off for a long time, so now she got it wrong. He was confident, smiled a very beautiful smile and said, "Yes, when I was in the countryside I was very busy with work and couldn't get anywhere. I miss my grandmother and miss her so much, sometimes I want to go out and ask but I can't help myself." The young girl looked at Heap with her dark eyes and gently scolded, "You are so bad. Even when I went to Hanoi, I didn't come to visit you. Don't you remember me? Or have you forgotten me?" The young girl bent down and smiled. Heap was moved in his heart, caressed and used a gentle voice. "No, I haven't forgotten you. Well, I haven't forgotten you. I'll never forget." He was truly touched, moved by the girl's clear eyes, her innocent, loving eyes. The more Heap looked at her, the more beautiful she saw, especially her pretty, charming, mischievous mouth. The two of them walked and talked. The story becomes more and more intimate, like two old friends meeting. Heap plays the role of a certain Mr. Tan very completely, answering discreetly. Sometimes Heap also hesitates about a sentence, but the young woman seems happy to meet her old friend, not paying attention to anything. By the time they broke up, he knew clearly that the girl was Lan, an international student at a women's pedagogical school. He also knew the house number on Luoc Street and was promised by her to come to the school door to pick her up the following Sunday. When he returned, Heap felt his steps were as light as a person flying. He happily praised himself for getting rid of his timidity and silently thanked a certain Tan for giving him the opportunity to get to know such a beautiful young woman. But Heap still had one thing to worry about. He was just afraid that Lan would know that he wasn't Tan, which would be troublesome. He was scared thinking about the time Lan invited Lan to come over to his house, although during the conversation, Heap didn't see Lan mention anything about it. All that. However, Heap was determined to tell Lan the truth, partly because he knew he couldn't hide it forever, and partly because he was sure that Lan would forgive him for that reluctant lie. That day, meeting Lan, Heap was touched and nervous, held Lan's hand and hesitantly said, "Lan, I have a story to tell you." Lan looked at Heap, blinked quickly, as if thinking for a moment, then smiled and said, "Mr. Tan, I also have something to tell you. Whatever it is, just say it." "No, I said it first." Heap hesitated again. "My story, please forgive me. That day, I lied to you, because I am not Tan." Lan smiled happily and replied, "I'm not Lan either." Seeing Heap's eyes wide open, looking like he didn't understand, she continued, "You are not Mr. Tan's Lan, but mine. That means, I know you're not Tan." "I know?" "Yes." Heap was bewildered. He asked, "So what?" "I do not understand." Lan covered her mouth with her hand and said, "Nothing. That day, I saw that you were still confused, so I pretended to ask so you wouldn't be embarrassed, but there was no Mr. Tan or Mr. Tai." Heap suddenly understood and smiled happily. After a moment, Heap happily asked, "So you know me? I love you?" Lan looked at Heap with her dark, innocent eyes. No, I only knew you followed me. I never knew you, but I saw you stammering and not being able to say anything. I felt sorry for you. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.